A monk asked Master Yaoshan, "What are you thinking when you're sitting in Zazen?" The master replied, "I'm thinking not thinking." The monk, puzzled, asked, "How do you think not thinking?" And the master replied, "Hishiryō." So this formulation appears in Dogen's Fukan's Zengi and in various other places. And the exchange in Japanese is a bit terse, so it's kind of like what thinking Zazen, thinking not thinking, how think not thinking, then this answer hishiryō. So shiryō means thinking, and fu, as in fushiryo, is the direct negative, not thinking. And the final answer, hishiryō, well, what does that mean? So the usual rendering of hishiryō is beyond thinking. Tanahashi, for instance, renders it in that way. Other people, Nishijima renders it as non-thinking, and the contemporary Canadian teacher, Anzan Hushin, renders it as before thinking. Now, I would hope that the difficulties with rendering hishiryō as beyond thinking are clear. Namely, we imagine that there's some state that we need to reach which is beyond thinking, and that thinking is an obstruction. So our thinking is, as it were, like a drunk just standing in front of us, constantly impeding our way forward. Non-thinking, as a translation, perhaps gets around that, but it depends on us understanding a category in Chinese thinking, which is to do with spontaneous action. So the idea is that we're not intentionally firing an arrow or painting or whatever. It's spontaneous action, but that's quite difficult for us to understand. And Hoshin's rendering of it as before thinking has a similar risk, but as it were in the opposite direction. So we think that we kind of need to cut off thought before it arises. But if you actually read what Hoshin has to say about all of this, what he's clear about is that his translation of before thinking doesn't mean that there shouldn't be any thinking or there shouldn't be any thoughts, but rather that there's a spaciousness to it. So, as it were, I'm halfway along a tunnel, and there's a light of thinking, and I suddenly am aware of the whole length of the tunnel before this light. So I'm not trying to switch the light off. I'm simply trying to actualize the whole space of the tunnel. And similarly, beyond thinking doesn't mean to eradicate thought. It's simply, again, introducing this great spaciousness within which thought and everything else occurs. And we can term that spaciousness, awareness, or original awareness, or something like that. And more than that, it's not that this spaciousness is external to us, but rather in our actual experience, we are, at least sometimes, this lump of spaciousness. So sometimes a lump of flesh, sometimes a lump of life, sometimes a lump of energy, and sometimes a lump of space. And as it were, this little lump of space, or flesh, or energy is part of a greater body. So we're not experiencing something symbolically or something as an idea, but we're actually experiencing it. So rather than me having an idea of my body, which I have, I think, if I imagine that Zazen is returning my attention to my body and my breath, my focus is on my actual experience. And that actual experience is hishiryō.